Hi, Steve. It is great to see you. Always love hanging out with you and having a chance to talk to you and talk with you and share a beer, but we can't do that, so we're going to share one virtually. How are you doing? How are you holding up?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I think live here locally in Indianapolis, Indiana, so we're certainly not excluded from the domestic international events. And all things being said, we're safe, we're staying put, and staying positive. And my wife, I think Ken, you and I were talking about just before we started going here. My wife works directly in the healthcare setting as well as many other of our SOS employees, family, and certainly living it not only through the news cycle but also personally has been interesting. Although I wouldn't say anywhere near the extent somewhere like New York or LA or maybe like London, but it's been the evolution's been amazing from 3 weeks ago. Very tough situation to it seems like we're starting to, as they say, plateau here in Indiana, and hopefully more positive news and outcomes shortly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, thank her a lot on behalf of all of us and to the rest of the SOS team and everybody. Obviously makes a big difference, and then the goal is to get it back to work. So they're at the front lines and helping us make that happen.
Yeah,
so,
it's comforting from my standpoint, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the, obviously SOS, you guys are the worldwide leaders, I could say, probably pretty safely in shipping for our industry. And obviously we had a crisis that hit us all 3 or 4 weeks ago. So when everything kind of unraveled in March, I mean, how did you guys respond? Obviously, were things in transit and then you had to kind of get them back, or sort of what was that ripple effect?
Yeah, I mean, it happened quickly. I was actually, I was in London for 2 weeks and was scheduled to come home, I think March 9th or 10th. Decided to cut the trip short by a couple days. And frankly, just I think in front of 72 hours when Donald Trump finally just shut everything down. And that moves to the industry pretty quickly. From our standpoint, it's not as difficult to move virtual as really our products or service. So we had the opportunity already in place, and kind of the idea of what would happen given some of the scenarios we've already gone through with previous other global issues. So it wasn't as big of a shock to our system initially, just getting folks out of the office, working at home. Again, that whole, staying safe, staying healthy, that was done pretty quickly. But then falling back with our clients, trying to understand, really starting very early in March, going, hey, what's happening? What are you looking at? What are things? And certainly the storyline at that point wasn't positive. I mean, we had a lot of cancellations, things that aren't certainly news at this point. It impacted our business directly and our clients. So we moved quickly from really the shipping piece of it, once we had our hands around that, to communicating directly with our clients and our friends. We've been in this industry for 3+ decades, so it moved fast from shipping to how are you doing? How are things at home? Any way we can help, and just really making sure we're reaching out to all of our clients, not from a heavy-handed commercial approach, more to how are things. I'm sure SVG is doing the same thing, and making sure people understand that we're still 100% staffed, 24/7, 365. Nothing's changed, and we're operational.
So can you walk through, obviously, while the sports events have stopped, concerts have stopped, but news is going on, obviously very important. So because I know everyone's kind of curious as far as when things do return to normal, how has the shipping process changed at all? Has it changed at all for news as far as safety, wiping down boxes, sort of what's kind of the—
all of the above. I mean, all of the above. I think if you look at just purely from a festival standpoint, it's interesting. You look at Coachella, Lollapalooza, and a few of the other big ones. They haven't canceled as much as they postponed. Many, I think, events are in October now. But what's interesting is, there's all types of insurance issues and the pandemic crisis. So that's affecting kind of the business model from that standpoint, going, hey, if they decide to start selling tickets and promoting this, who has the exposure in case October doesn't happen? So we're seeing that evolution in regards to how the business impacts not only the music side of it, but obviously the legacy broadcast side of it, as well as other industries we're involved in. But it is, it's somewhat of a green field right now. And from a timing standpoint, we hear that June, July, August kind of rolling time frame. I think PGA just announced that they're going to hold 3 or 4 events without any audience participation. From that standpoint, we just had a request come in late last night for some virtual work out of Paris. So we're seeing the lights go from red to kind of flickering yellow. But again, it really just depends on this pandemic, this crisis at this point. I mean, certainly the storyline and the theme we've been holding very tight to is staying home, staying safe, and staying positive. And I don't think that's going to change for the time being until we start to see that line flatten. And I think it's much to your industry and SVG standpoint, I'm sure folks you're talking to, we hope sooner than later, because I think we'll be, we're probably going to be hit as hard as anybody else. And we need there to be, a lot of positive news cycle. We need a vaccine. We need, kind of some of those levers to trip before people start talking about sports, mass gatherings, concerts, and things that, we're heavily involved in.
Right. Well, Bundesliga is looking to hopefully get going in May. They're kind of seem like they're planning, and you're talking about June for golf, hopefully.
Yep. We've seen more and more of it. It seems like we're getting more calls. We're in constant contact with a lot of different agencies globally, and it seems like over the last maybe specifically this week, a few of the phone calls I've been on of, hey, we're looking towards kind of that September, October time frame is really kind of the go forward here at this point, barring some sort of reset with COVID.
Right. So what's your senses? I mean, obviously, it could be, and from the conversation we've had with our board, hopefully a very busy fall, August, September, October, where you guys could probably be busier than ever because you're doing every event at the same time. How do you kind of prepare for that? Because you sort of can prepare for it, but again, everything, as you know, as you just said, everything's sort of it's maybe going to happen. So how do you kind of get ready for this deluge that hopefully will come, and mentally and just, as a team?
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything from an innovation standpoint. It's more around kind of the framework and our central strategy and how we're communicating to our employees internally, and also how those employees, specifically out of New Bern and our offices across the globe, to our clients. So it's really trying to give us as much runway as we can. And the only way we can do that is frankly by having open discussions. And at this point, the conversation is still a little bit jilted around the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is starting to move more into that planning phase of, hey, what are you guys seeing from freight rates? What's available? What's open? From an international community standpoint, which is still evolving. And certainly we're trying to stay on top of it as best we can. And certainly, I think as we move forward this week, next week, I think there's some pretty interesting news cycle moving through right now domestically here in regards to maybe some progress on therapies and things. And you can almost kind of see it move lockstep. Gilead, I think yesterday announced that they had some positive phase 3 trials of their therapy.
Right.
The stock market went up 700 points, right? So, I mean, everybody's looking for those kind of data points to go, okay, lights are turning green. Let's start planning. People are going to start coming out. Companies are going to start easing restrictions. People are going to be hopping on planes. So we're following that news cycle very, very closely. But there are a couple events that are coming down the pike here, which certainly you're familiar with. I mean, we've got an Olympic cycle that's going to be extremely compressed. That is going to add a lot of pressure, and I'm sure we can get into that a little bit. But there are events that we know that are coming next year. Just with the confluence of events that are happening are going to be very challenging, and ones that we need to make sure we've got a great plan in place for our partners.
So in general, because obviously the only kind of shipping that I'm doing right now is Amazon boxes. And you see all these things online. People are like,
I see that van go by my window about every few hours.
Right. So everyone's always, you always read all this stuff. Well, if you're getting a delivery, you got to let it sit. You got to wipe it down. So is there anything, protocols, when stuff does get going? When you're shipping stuff, what is done? What has to be done to keep stuff clean? Drivers?
We're following whatever protocols are being set forward. So we're not looking to be overly innovative there. Right. We're communicating exactly what we're being told to our clients. From our standpoint, safety first, no question. Especially, we're still somewhere at the peak flattening of the curve. So it is better to be hyper cautious. I can tell you, from our standpoint, when we get anything delivered to the house, we're letting it sit for 24 hours. We've got a plastic bag that's down. We put it on top of there. We sanitize it. We are taking every precaution. That's certainly what we're telling our clients as well, is treat everything as if it's infected, and that's it. I mean, it's safety first, no question.
Sure. Yeah, so you mentioned the compressed schedule for the Olympics, and obviously that'll be compressed for 2022 also, right? So it'll be, can you walk through what that might mean as far as,
Yeah.
how does a big event like that kind of turn on a dime within 6 months? I mean, does stuff come home, or does it just kind of go straight to China?
It won't be coming home. I mean, that's for sure. And it is basically both events are going to need the same equipment at the same time. And, there's going to be some real world scenarios where typically you would have, especially the broadcast gear and some of the highly technical gear would go home to be recalibrated. That's going to have to be done remotely.
Right.
It's going to be a tight schedule. And I think, from our standpoint, there's some things that we're looking at for China, just making sure they've got the regulations. They aren't quite yet, the custom regulations aren't formalized yet. So there's some trips that we need so that we can start planning how and when we move. But long story short is this equipment is going to be moving very fast directly from Tokyo to Beijing, period. And nothing's coming home.
It'll be on a fast boat to China.
I'm sorry?
It'll be on a fast boat to China.
Yeah, that's anything and everything we can. I mean, literally it is. I was just talking to a couple of our international folks internally, and it's the theme is, same equipment in two different places. How are we going to do it?
Right. Crazy. So anything else you want to add as far as, I know you guys, like you said, you've been in touch with your clients, which is great. Your employees are on the front lines too, just like they were, because you guys are out there moving and driving and still working as essential workers. Any kind of closing thoughts from you as far as?
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, we're still handling unique events. We just finished Nick Walenda's Volcano Live show, produced by Dick Clark, aired live on ABC. That was an interesting one that just finished up towards the middle of March. I think we had 27 containers moving to Nicaragua, shipping those things 7 hours by truck over right across the country, wiring an active volcano, and then bringing all that gear out. Ken, to your previous question, through port closures, through limited services, and making sure our clients receive it on time. It's still very much what we're doing, and we're here and ready to help. We're not going anywhere. We're fully operational, and I think at this point we're still going to be reaching out and having very candid conversations with our clients and making sure they know the same information that we do, and as quickly as we can.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, thanks for your time, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always great talking. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
I look forward to raising the frosty beverage with you soon.
Sounds good.